Thanks everyone for listening to me tonight. We're going to talk about speed first up. Alright, first thing that comes to mind for me is posture. Okay, a couple of examples for you would be neck. So if you run with your head forward like that looking up, if you have your chin forward like this, you're going to lose your ribs. So if your ribs pop out and you're running like this, so parents, if you're ever watching your kid hit a ball and when they're running they've got their head up like this, they're lost connection. So if their ribs are popped out, they don't have true core stability. Okay, the neck needs to be in a neck bolts position, meaning long neck. Crown of the head should be the top of the neck. Okay, that'll be in a much better traditional sort of force production position, and you'll see it all the time. You'll see clippings of a person receiving a ball and they're running in rugby, or even if you see classic positions of someone after they've hit the ball and they're sprinting, their head will be like this. They can still look forward, but they don't have their head up like that. Okay, so neck is a classic one, and it's something that if you fix it, it actually makes a big difference relatively quickly. It does take a while for it to go away though. Okay, the other one is sort of like a rounded posture, so upper back posture. Parents are always telling their sons to pull their shoulders back, or their daughters or whatever. What you want is that you can't really do that. It's sort of like saying if someone has, if they're unstable through the core, if you sit in your office chair for 8 hours a day, just after a while you just sag and you start to drop. What we want to do is we want to develop training systems so that way you don't have to tell them to pull the shoulders back, so you don't have to tell them to pull the neck up straight. You need to sort of do an exercise which will actually do it for, which will make them get their head in a decent position. My son used to run that way, and now he doesn't, but it probably took about 1.5 to 2 years of just doing different exercises where just neck bolts was the most simple one, where the head's on the back of the back of the head's on the ground. They just do neck bolts like this, nodding the chin, and they do that every day that they go to train. And from that positioning, also coaching it, you know, getting the neck in position and then running, that position is very, very good. The rounded shoulders one I want to point out is because it's sort of like has anyone, you know, Swiss balls, the big round balls or whatever? If the ball is sort of soft and it isn't fully blown up, if you kick it, it doesn't really go very far. But if the ball is really tight and you kick it, it flies. All right, that's the same thing, is that if your foot hits the ground and your back is rounded, imagine the force is going up through the spine. It sort of dissipates into the upper back and doesn't allow the person to actually travel a long distance. Where if their neck is long, their shoulders aren't rounded in that sort of position, when the foot hits the ground, it actually makes them fly. Okay, so they actually move further. They want to displace their body from A to B as fast as humanly possible. Okay, so if you think of those two things, posture is vital if you want to get faster. So if you have poor posture, if your child has poor posture, then you're not going to run very fast, or you're not going to run as fast as you should. The fastest kid in your group or your team might be the kid with bad posture. That doesn't mean that they necessarily shouldn't get faster. They should get faster. Okay. Posture is a big one. Running form. Okay. So running form drills. The one sort of little story I like to tell is that, has anyone seen the movie Gallipoli? It was the first movie I saw on VHS back in 1981. All right, I was so excited because my mum and dad bought this VHS, put this thing in 1981. That was pretty big time. The one thing that I remember about Gallipoli, it's got Mel Gibson in it, is there's a part where the coach is talking to the boy, and he's like, your legs, they're steel springs, okay? And I still talk about this at Acceleration. I have done for years and years. And the big thing that I want you to remember about the steel springs is that you need to have great ankle stiffness. So when the foot hits the ground, it needs to be tight. If it's soft, if it meets the ground too early where they're pointing the toes to try and stay up on their toes, whatever, it will not produce force. You need to have the toe up and the foot needs to hit the ground. This is not sprinter stuff. This is athleticism stuff, okay? If you don't have that inherent tension in the ankle, you're not going to get great power production. I'm just going to try and find a video for you. Ankle jump stiffness. So I'll just throw that over here, see if I can get it. It's a very quick little drill, and so you can imagine doing this drill before you do a sprint, or you could do this drill as part of your prehab routine before you run or before training. So very simply, once we get it actually up and running, yep, Very tight. See how his toes he's trying to pick his toes up every time he hits the ground? That is the most simple form of ankle stiffness. Okay? All right. There's heaps of application then. You can go over that. I'm just going to try and get rid of that. Okay. And then I'll go back. All right. So steel springs. Let's move on to some acceleration drills. I want to show you a dowel rod drill. So we just have a dowel rod, and why I want to show this to you is just sort of the angle. So an acceleration angle, let's just try a high knee skip. And so what we're trying to do here is it's an application of posture. I think if there's no video, that's okay. I'll just show it to you in photos. So you can see the, don't know what I'm doing there to your computer there. So the dowel is actually across the shoulders in this case. It can be above head, overhead as well. But if you're trying to work on posture, long neck, shoulders up high or shoulders here, the person is just doing a high knee march, okay? And then you can do a skip and then you can do a run from that position. But the whole time it's an application of posture and it's an application of force production, okay? So you need to work on running form first. Posture first, running form second, then acceleration drills. Now acceleration drills is more about pushback. So I'll show you a pushback drill. Pushback.
With that dowel one, you're doing the high knees, you're also doing running as well with it?
Yeah, so we actually do run with it, yeah.
Yep. Maintain that posture.
So very simply, just so you understand the progressions, which you can do yourself. You got a dowel rod here or above, so there's two different versions above head. You can have a plate above head, same exact progression. High knee march, above head, whatever, doesn't matter. So you got march, then you got skip, then you got double skip, like that, and then you've got running, high knee running, and I forget what the rest, do you remember, Dan? The next progression, double skip, run. Yeah, so there's four of them. A high knee march, skip, double skip, run. Yeah, and we just do applications of that. Dowel above head, plate above head, or just using arms. So you can show those applications, and they're just great just for variety, if nothing else, but obviously plate is more resistance, so it's an application, it's an overload principle. So, good question. Any other questions before I show you pushback? The pushback to me, no, that's not what I want. The pushback portion of it, I'll show you the video of it, but the main concept, you can apply it to all your change of direction stuff, and that's why I want to show it to you, is it's something that you really need to look for in terms of, I'll do a fast pushback drill because it's a bit more dynamic. And yep, it will come up sometime. Okay, so the whole concept is you can apply this across all your change of direction work, which we'll go over a little bit more. You can actually see it's an old video, so you'll actually see my head in not the greatest position, so we'll have to reshoot that in time. But we've got thousands of videos, so it'll probably take us a little while, but we will get that reshot. So my head's not in a great position there. Okay, I'll just see if I can get it going. Yep. Okay, so that's a fast pushback drill. So you can imagine when you come into a position where you're approaching, something occurs, and then you push and open, all right? So the pushback is applied in all sorts of change of direction type work, which pretty much is vital for all your acceleration. So for anything from straight line to change direction, the pushback is vital for initial acceleration. Remember, acceleration in the definitions was about trying to go from basically 0 to 100 in as few seconds as possible. Okay, I kind of like talk about a Porsche. All right, so you want to be nice and quick off the start. So to get that nice quick start, to use your big muscles, your quad and your glutes, you want to be able to push back. Okay, so that's really, really important. And also the acceleration lane is 45 degrees, and that's pretty much the case for all your agility stuff. All right, keep moving on. In terms of, I won't keep showing videos the whole time. In terms of progressive overload, and we'll go into agility. One of my favorite things to try and help you remember about agility, first up is foot speed. I really like good foot speed before you move into actual change of direction work. So has everyone tried ladder here? Has anyone not done some foot speed ladder before? So foot speed ladder, the reason why how it works is basically it's like dancing if you do too many different drills. So you just do a few drills, just try to get your feet nice and quick. It gives you the ability to pitter-patter. So as you're approaching something, you're making decisions. You can change your feet. The quicker they can go up and down. So if they're quicker, then I can make decisions quicker. Okay. From the actual change direction work though, even kids that are really skinny, you ever notice that kids, they come up and they try to make a decision, they plant and they move and they're so slow that when that foot hits the ground that they really struggle, and I sort of explain it sort of like Homer Simpson. Imagine Homer Simpson doing the agility drill. His foot hits the ground and his big guts goes, and then he goes the other way, all right? That's where core stability becomes really important. Obviously, Homer probably doesn't have a whole lot. So if you remember that if you're slow like that, you want to be able to plant and then push and be nice and quick. Okay, you don't want to be like Homer Simpson. Even if you are skinny, you don't want to be slow and to be able to go the other way. And you'll see it all the time, particularly in kids with poor posture. They'll come up, they'll bang, and their posture goes this way, and then they finally go that way. Okay, so it's really, really important from the agility point of view to remember that. Okay. Next is progressive overload. So sleds are really helpful. Sleds, chutes, you may have seen anything which provides some form of resistance is that you're doing an exercise and you've got good posture, you've got good running form now, everything sort of goes backwards and forwards instead of out to the side, which you'll see a lot of. You want to be able to get good efficiency, especially in baseball, because it's very much, you want to be able to get to that base and it's a straight line sprint, okay? Whoever can get from A to B, maybe that's the difference. Maybe you'll get to first base before you get out. All right, so sled is a really good way of adding resistance. Next thing that we were covering was cross training. Cross training is bike, pool, rowers, just stuff like that to work on your cross training. What I like, this is my preference, is stuff that you're not on your feet a lot, okay? Because you're on your feet quite a bit with training and everything else. I like to deload you and try and keep you away from that sort of stuff. The one good thing about cross training is it keeps your body fat low, okay? If you ever look, baseball with my background in the US was in college baseball, and when you look up at the pros, they're supreme athletes, ridiculously powerful human beings, okay? And if they, as a general rule, apart from Cecil Fielder, I think he was pretty heavy, but all the rest were pretty cut, okay? If you're going to be a fantastic athlete, that means you have to be low on body fat, you have to be high on musculature, all that sort of stuff. You're kidding yourself if you think you can get away with, being skinny and weak or being big and heavy and all that sort of stuff. You really need to take care of yourself. Cross training is a great way to drop your body fat so you can get faster. And the one thing that if not at so much a younger age, but as the years go on, you need to make sure that's particularly a big area for you to keep your body fat low so that way you can run as fast as humanly possible. Okay, and you'll generally, when you talk to the pros and everything, they will talk about that a lot. Where if they run at 89 kilos and they just drop 1 kilo, they're that much lighter. They're just that 1 kilo made a big difference, help them with their speed. Is there anything else about cross training that you wanted to point out?
Yeah, the only other thing I would say is that, especially as young athletes too, I don't mind you guys playing other sports. Sometimes you can, for instance, use other sports to help develop some of the qualities that we're talking about. So what are some sports that you could potentially use to help develop your speed? So let's say, for instance, in the off-season and stuff like that, if you weren't just playing baseball all year round, what are some other sports that you could use to help develop your speed? Soccer? Yep. Yep. Any of the football codes? Yep. What else? Basketball. Basketball? Yep. What's the most obvious one?
Track.
Track. Right, run track. So if you're interested in that sort of stuff and you want to, develop and get faster as a baseball player, one of the best ways that you can do it would be run track. So you run track with your school athletics team or whatever it is. You get opportunities to run fast, you get some coaching in how to run fast, and then certainly throughout the baseball season you can apply that same ability to your baseball game as well.